This is Declassified, with your host, Topsey Kratz. The date is July 4th, 2006. Allow me to introduce myself. Topsey Kratz is not my real name, and this is not my real voice. Please understand that I must conceal my identity. I was born on the East Coast of the United States in the early 1980s, and I hold a degree in computer engineering and radio broadcasting. My father often regaled us with a tale about his abduction by space aliens. He claimed to be on a mission to warn as many people as possible about an imminent alien invasion. He asserted that the aliens had implanted images of war and destruction in his mind, intending to enslave humanity and bring down all governments. He believed that everyone who has been adopted throughout history by these aliens was a subject of study in biology, so they could use biological warfare against us. Their ultimate goal, he believed, was to kill us all to preserve our natural resources for their consumption. Remarkably, I was the only one who ever believed in his story. Tragically, he passed away approximately 7 years ago in a mental institution. On his deathbed, he would repeatedly say, "They're coming to kill us all." My fascination with stories of abduction and alien encounters stems from my father's stories. Over the past year, I've been on the run from the United States government. The reason for this is because I hacked into secret government files related to 2 UFO incidents. One incident involved Travis Walton, a logger who claimed to have been abducted, while the other involved Barney and Betty Hill, a married couple who also reported an abduction experience. The government attempted to suppress these 2 incidents. The Travis Walton incident, which occurred on November 5, 1975, involved Walton, who was employed by future brother-in-law Mike Rogers on a federal contract. On October 20th, Rogers acknowledged in writing that the job had fallen significantly behind schedule and might not be completed by the deadline. That night, Walton and Rogers watched a movie about the alleged abduction of Barney and Betty Hill, titled The UFO Incident. After the broadcast, Walton reportedly discussed the possibility of being abducted by a flying saucer. On November 5th, the crew reported Walton missing. They recalled driving back after sunset when Rogers stopped the truck, and Walton walked into the forest towards an overhead light. Walton was illuminated by a beam of light, and Rogers drove away with the others. Police organized search parties, but they were called off at the insistence of Travis's mother. After 5 days and 6 hours, Walton called his sister from a phone booth in Heber. Walton then sold his story to the National Enquirer, which published the account and awarded the crew a $5,000 prize. In 1978, he wrote The Walton Experience, which was later adapted into the 1993 film Fire in the Sky. Science writers Philip J. Klass and Michael Shermer proposed a potential motive for the hoax, to provide an act of God that would allow the crew to avoid a severe financial penalty from the Forestry Service for failing to complete their contract by the deadline. In 2021, Mike Rogers made a social media post renouncing his status as a witness to Walton's supposed abduction. After conducting interviews with Rogers in 2021, researchers suggested that a nearby fire lookout tower and its spotlight were used to create the illusion of a flying saucer shining a beam of light on Walton. But what most people don't know is that the FBI and the CIA forced these men to alter their stories, but Travis Walton never altered his story. The truth is, the original story these men told is supported by evidence in the files I obtained. Now, let's delve into the second story. I've obtained top-secret government files on the Hill abduction incident. Occurred on September 20, 1961, in rural New Hampshire. An American couple, Betty and Barney Hill, claimed to have been abducted by extraterrestrials during a 2-day period from September 19 to 20, 1961. The incident gained widespread attention and was dubbed the Hill abduction and the Zeta Reticuli incident due to the connection made by 2 ufologists between the star map shown to Betty Hill and the Zeta Reticuli system. Their story was adapted into the best-selling 1966 book The Interrupted Journey and the 1975 television film The UFO Incident. According to various reports from the Hills, the alleged UFO sighting occurred around 10:30 p.m. on September 19, 1961. The Hills were returning to Portsmouth from a vacation in Niagara Falls and Montreal. Just south of Lancaster, New Hampshire, Betty claimed to have noticed a bright light in the sky that moved from below the moon and Jupiter upward to the west of the moon, while Barney navigated U.S. Route 3. Betty initially thought she was observing a falling star, but it moved erratically and grew larger and brighter. Concerned about the unusual behavior of the light, Betty urged Barney to stop the car for a closer look and to take their dog, Delcy, for a walk. Barney stopped at a scenic picnic area just south of Twin Mountain. Betty, peering through binoculars, noticed an odd-shaped craft flashing multicolored lights across the moon's face. Inspired by her sister's earlier sighting of a flying saucer, Betty suspected it might be the object she was observing. Barney, observing through binoculars, believed he saw a commercial airliner heading towards Vermont on its way to Montreal. However, he soon changed his mind as the craft descended rapidly in his direction without turning, contradicting his initial assumption. This observation made Barney realize that the object he had thought was a plane was not one. The Hills continued their journey on the quiet and isolated road, slowly driving through Franconia Notch to observe the object as it drew nearer. At one point, the object passed above a restaurant and signal tower atop Cannon Mountain and emerged near the Old Man of the mountain. Betty described the object as at least 1.5 times the length of the 40-foot, 12 m, granite cliff profile, and it seemed to be rotating. The couple watched in awe as the silent, illuminated craft moved erratically and bounced back and forth in the night sky. About a mile south of Indian Head, the object rapidly descended towards their vehicle, causing Barney to stop in the middle of the highway. The enormous, silent craft hovered approximately 80 to 100 feet, 24 to 30 meters, above the Hills' 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, filling the entire field of view in the windshield. It resembled a giant pancake. Carrying his pistol in his pocket, Barney stepped away from the vehicle and approached the object. Using binoculars, he claimed to have seen 8 to 11 humanoid figures peering out of the craft's windows, seemingly observing him. In unison, all but one figure moved towards what appeared to be a panel on the rear wall of the hallway that encircled the front portion of the craft. The solitary figure continued to gaze at Barney and communicated a message instructing him to stay where you are and keep looking. Barney recalled observing the humanoid forms wearing glossy black uniforms and black caps. Red lights on what resembled batwing fins began to telescope out of the sides of the craft, and a long structure descended from the craft's bottom. The silent craft approached Barney, whom he estimated was within 50 to 80 feet, 15 to 24 meters, overhead and 300 feet, 91 meters, away. Terrified by the prospect of being captured by these creatures, Barney ran back to the car. As the Hills sped away, they heard a strange beeping sound and fell into a daze. Upon awakening, they realized they were now just outside of Concord. On October 21, 1961, Barney reported to NICAP investigator Walter Webb that the beings were somehow not human. The government tried to silence all 3 individuals involved in these incidents because they feared the truth would come to light. Travis and the Hills were not seeking fame or fortune, they simply wanted to share their experiences. However, the government's efforts to silence them were unsuccessful. About 9 months ago, I hacked into the government's systems and accessed secret servers. I obtained detailed files on 2 incidents and uploaded them to the internet. This has led to my pursuit by the United States government. The people have a right to know the truth, and I must continue to fight for this right. I must warn people that these type of abductions are really happening. Unfortunately, my current location is not secure, so I will be broadcasting my radio show occasionally. You can find the times by visiting my website. This is Topsey Kratz. I'm going to declassify all government files on UFOs, other phenomenon, and government cover-ups. Stay safe and keep your eyes on the skies, my friends.